Hello and welcome to my workshop on test taking. My name is Lara Olson and I'm the academic coach at UWSP, and I help students with anything study skills related. So today we talk about test taking, but I help students with so many other things, let's say stress management or note-taking or setting up a study schedule, or these days I talk a lot about online learning. So if that is something that you are interested in, you can always stick around after the workshop and make a one-on-one appointment with me and make like 30-minute appointments, either a one-time appointment or recurring appointments. So I love talking with students and helping you guys with some things that come up. All right, I need to start my presentation. Let me just share my screen here. There we go. There it is. And at the beginning of each workshop, I always like to talk a little bit about the TLC. Who of you have been to the TLC?
I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have too.
Okay. And then I don't know who was left. So two of you guys have been to the TLC.
I've been there too.
Sorry?
I've been there too, yeah.
Okay. Are you familiar with how it works online now? How tutoring works online these days?
Well, I have a biology tutor, so I've been doing that. So I guess, yeah, I do.
Okay. Have the others used our services with online tutoring?
Not yet.
I have not.
Okay, that's good. I'll show you around a little bit. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time at the beginning because it's, I think, useful just to know how we do it now online. So for example, one of our biggest, do you see my screen now? Where it says Tutoring-Learning Center? Okay, good.
Yep.
So for example, one of our biggest programs is math and science. And let me just click on that real quick. And we have different kinds of tutoring, and you're familiar with that. So I can make that a little bit shorter, but we have one-on-one, group, and drop-in tutoring. And one-on-one tutoring, usually there's a small fee involved, but for the rest of the semester, it is free. So every one-on-one tutoring in sciences and in math is free. So that is really, really awesome. And you can just click on the form, and it takes you to the form where you just fill out your information and your available times. So that's pretty cool. And also, let's say I wanted to drop in tutoring. Okay, first I need to sign in here. And let's say I want to do, I don't know, biology. And then you see the time, and then basically you just click on the name, and then a Zoom meeting opens. That's how it works. So it's pretty cool. We have been changing our ways how we do tutoring, but we are trying to still make everything work. And what else can I tell you about? So for example, reading in the disciplines works the same way. Reading in the disciplines is something that I'm going to show you in the schedule that you might maybe be interested in next semester, because we are getting ready for next semester. So we have classes like psychology or let's say sociology, and then we host reading in the disciplines courses where you talk about course content and through readings. And the schedule is already for the fall, so it's actually not populated right now. But just so you're aware of this, it's a really cool thing, and you get a credit for it. So that's pretty neat. And then for writing lab, what you do basically right now is that if you want to get feedback on essays or writing assignments, you would email them to tlctutor@uwsp.edu. And then you will get feedback from a tutor. But you can still request one-on-one tutoring, and that will also then work through Zoom. And again, you would email for an appointment. So basically, we offer all the services that we have been offering, and most of it is offered then through Zoom. We also have technology tutoring, so anything technology related. We have world languages tutoring. So there's a whole lot happening in the TLC. Okay, let me go back to my PowerPoint. Are there any questions so far about the TLC?
Do you know if there's a reading in the disciplines for biology right now? Or for next semester even?
So reading in the disciplines is for humanities classes, but you would then be looking into group tutoring, and we usually have group tutoring for biology.
Okay, awesome.
Which class would it be?
Well, my class this semester is 101, but next semester I think it's 287, maybe.
Let me see if we have one this semester, because I am pretty sure we do. Let's check. But that would be basically group tutoring, and it's free, so it's pretty sweet. Let's check. Bio 287. Yes. So even now you could do group tutoring. What do you have right now? One-on-one?
One, yeah. I've been doing with Emily. I've been doing the Zoom meetings on Tuesday with Emily.
Yeah. So, yep, we have that next semester. I'm pretty sure. I mean, check back at the beginning of next semester where we schedule everything, but I am pretty confident that we will. Yeah, thanks for the question. Any other questions? Okay, great. Then let's move to test taking. And I think I'm going to skip through math because nobody here today is taking any math classes. If you're watching this video and you have any questions about math tests, so please let me know. And I can share some resources with you, and you can make a one-on-one appointment with me. Okay, but let's talk about multiple choice tests. What have your experiences been with multiple choice tests? What are some of the roadblocks that you have faced? If there were any at all. Have there been any, so there have not been any challenges with multiple choice tests?
Nothing like specific that I can like. Okay,
not pinpoint. All right, maybe questions will come up as soon, as we walk through some of the tips. And I want to talk a little bit about preparing. So, and that is, some of these things are true for preparing for any test, really. So it is important to understand the test format. So you need to know what's on the test. That helps you not only to prepare for the content, but let's say if you experience test anxiety, for example, knowing what's going to happen in the test is key. Yeah. Yes, not stepping into a test situation where you're completely unprepared, that will create a lot of anxiety. And unprepared meaning not knowing what the test will look like. You need to understand your professor. A lot of professors are changing what they're doing, right? I've talked with a lot of students who kind of have to adapt now to new ways. So understanding, what your professor expects. Taking multiple choice practice exams is always important. And I don't know if this point will come up, but if so, then I'll already talk about it now. One of the things you can use multiple choice practice exams for is to use it as a study tool, not just to kind of browse through and be like, okay, done, 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 done. Okay, I was right here, wrong here, wrong here, wrong there, right here. But for example, looking at a question and you have 4 answers and 1 answer is correct. You could, for example, take one of the incorrect answers and say, okay, what would I have to do in order to make this answer the right one? Does that make sense? Like just kind of, maybe changing the wording or changing some parts of the content just to use it as a study tool. Taking short study sessions with breaks in between. So I always recommend to go 45 to 50 minutes maximum. I recommend setting a timer. You can set a timer to, on your phone. 50 minutes work well, 45 just as well. And when you set your timer, you study and you put everything away, you put your phone away, and you do everything you can to stay focused. And then when your timer goes off, you take a little break. And what do you do in breaks?
Get up and go walk around.
Yeah, for sure. What else? Any other ideas?
Maybe have a snack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. A little bit of coffee, snack, walking around, doing a little bit of just any type of movement. Also, I oftentimes recommend kind of mindless work. Work sounds bad, but mindless tasks. I love doing some dishes in between different like work blocks, especially when I get stuck somewhere and I feel like, oh, I don't know, I just need a break. It can feel really nice to do something productive that doesn't have anything to do with schoolwork or with studying. Do you have some mindless tasks that you sometimes do and that keep you motivated to study?
I always have my exercise bike around, and it really helps to just hop on there for a while.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any other things that people do?
I like to pack just to make my area like clean. Kind of gives me like a clearer mind, I guess.
Oh, to clean a little bit around you?
Yeah.
For sure, yeah. I recommend that a lot to students. I do that myself. Yeah, exactly. So use your breaks to kind of get up, maybe not go on your phone. Sure, you can maybe like, I do use my phone like to write a friend, to connect with a family member, but not get lost in an app or something. And you can stop me anytime, by the way, if you have a comment. We are a very small group, and we can make this as interactive as you want it to be. One thing that I talk about a lot is using higher level thinking strategies to prepare for the exam. So what does that mean, higher level thinking strategies? That has to do with Bloom's taxonomy. I don't want to go into detail because it's a whole other topic, but trying to make connections and comparisons between content, evaluating content, asking questions about something, being like critically reflecting on something, going beyond a memorization stage. Like, for example, I had a student who I coached in a session, and she struggled with true and false. True and false questions, which can also, you know, that is included, I would say, in that multiple choice thing. And for example, it was about physiology, and it was about different muscle groups and what the muscles do. And she said, yeah, you know, I prepare, I study what this one muscle here does. And then the question was about like drawing comparisons between different muscle groups. So multiple choice or true and false tests are really challenging. They do not just ask you to memorize, but they actually ask you to make these higher to make these higher level thinking efforts. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
Questions about that? Like, for example, also creating your own test questions would be something. Like designing your own content. Those are all higher level strategies. All right. Okay, and I already talked about that. Using the practice test as a study tool. So, for example, use false answers and turn them into correct ones. And preparing, and this would be now for, I think because that's it, I'm moving on to the other one. Something that I don't mention here on my slide, but I always say that to in my coaching sessions. Over prepare and teach content to others. If you can teach content, you really know your stuff. So, and of course, you know, when it is about these higher level thinking strategies, sometimes it's really hard to do that on your own, right? Like discussing different aspects, trying to make connections and comparisons, like having somebody else to do that with is really important. It's maybe in, that's what makes college so different from high school. In high school, it was more about like maybe memorizing and applying and spitting out knowledge. And in college, that's not enough. And so I do recommend going to group tutoring. You know, if you can do that in Zoom now, it's the same thing. I do recommend finding classmates in your class to set up virtual meetings that you can discuss material, ask questions, quiz each other, all of these things. You can still do that virtually. So find your people in your classes that you connect with regularly. Okay, and then there are a few tips during the test. Of course, reading the questions thoroughly. One of the tips is to try to answer the questions before looking at the answers. That might already stir you into the right direction. Be aware of modifiers. One tip is that that most of the time, for example, if extremes like never or always are used, the answer is wrong. And that makes sense. Like most things in life are not never or always. It's not black or white. Things are a little bit more complicated, usually. Eliminate grammatically incorrect choices, and we'll talk about that in a second. I go into more detail about that. But sometimes these little tricks, if you are stuck and you don't know, then being aware of something like that can be really helpful. Underlining keywords. Just kind of, instead of like seeing all these 4 answers and maybe being confused, underlining keywords in the question. Being like, all right, so what is this actually about? Really trying to grasp what is asked in the question. And then the same thing for the answers. make sure you fully understand each answer, because answers that are not correct are set up to distract you, actually. And some of them might not make sense. So if you really understand them, then you can eliminate some of those answers. Go with your gut. Often your first instinct is right. That is, not always true, of course. So, but it's often true. I have read tests where there was a lot of scratched and scribbled, and it just shows there are insecurities. And sure, you should make sure you work thoroughly, but oftentimes when there's a lot of scratched and corrected, it shows me a little bit there's like anxiety going on. And if you function on a high anxiety level, then I wouldn't recommend just changing all of your answers. Usually it makes it worse. If you're unsure about a question, make notes on the margin and come back to it. Try to answer all of the questions. I have also seen students like have a scratch paper and write down all the answers, right? Not like, let's say you have a Scantron and you have to fill in the bubbles. Like people write down 1A, 2C, and then they have to go back and fill out the bubbles. I mean, believe it or not, you might not have done that, but I've seen that, and that can cost you valuable time. Okay, and then I want to talk a little bit about educated guessing. This is pretty fun. I love talking about these, but it is important to understand that guessing strategies are not a substitute for good study habits and test preparation. So all these things that I've talked about, they are still true. How you best prepare yourself. Because these strategies are not foolproof and they will not guarantee the correct answer. But they will help you if you're kind of unsure, let's say you're between two answers, to kind of narrow down the choices. And I'll walk you through them one by one, and we are practicing them too. So, frequency of occurrence strategy. Look for items that appear in more than one of the choices. So for example, the following languages are spoken in the Comoro Islands: Spanish and Arabic, Arabic and French, German and Italian, French and English. What do you think? What do you think is the right answer? Take a moment, just take a moment to think about it. So which choices appear in more than one answer?
French.
Sorry, go ahead. If you want to, you could even, I don't know, can you use a chat function while we are doing this? Because I couldn't hear you. Say it again.
I said French and Arabic.
Yes, all right, good. That's right. Freud postulated that there are three parts of the mind. These are the ID, ego, and conscious. Unconscious, ID, conscious, superego, ego, and brain. Ego, superego, and ID. Which one would it be? And don't worry if you don't say the right answer. We can just have some fun with this.
Is that the last one?
Exactly. Because of ego and superego, right? Oh, and ID, that's right. Root and prefix clue strategy. So Latin and Greek roots, those will help you to find the answer if you're kind of familiar with those. So cuprous metal would appear bronze like, gold like, silver like, copper like.
Copper like.
Any guesses? Yes, copper like. And I wanted to show you guys, let me just stop sharing for a moment and share another screen. Is it open? No, it's not open anymore. Cannot minimize this while I'm recording. Schedules. Sorry guys, give me 1 second. All right, here, this I will share that. Do you see my screen now? Tips and tools. Academic. There are like online learning and test prep and test taking. And I hear, I think, my echo somewhere. So maybe if you're not speaking, I would mute your microphone. And if you're speaking, then you can turn it back on. So if you go on test prep and test taking, I put a few resources here. So if you go on the UWSP homepage, you can always type in TLC here, and then you go to come to our landing page. I'm going to just walk you through this. So, and if you go then to services and you go to academic coaching, that is my site and my page. And if you go on resources, this is then where you land here, test prep and test taking. So I put up some tips and you can look at those, but don't have them open because they will give you the answers for the PowerPoint, but they're just for later, so you have the reference. And then we have the Greek and the Latin roots, for example. So if you're interested in that, you can use this as a reference. Okay, let's go back. Do you see my PowerPoint again?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, we have another one. Horticulturists have long been aware of the symbiosis between pine trees and fungi. It has been found that they both grow together if kept apart. Pine trees are more beautiful and useful. Fungi grow on the ground around pine trees. They are more useful growing together than they are separately. Any ideas? Anybody knows some Greek? It's about the word symbiosis.
Is it D? Or
It is indeed, and why? Good, great.
I don't know. I was just thinking like symbiosis, like symbolic, maybe having a relationship between like the trees and fungi. So like if they're together.
Together, there you go. Syn means together and bios means life. Awesome, great. Negative prefixes. Knowing these, they can help you selecting a similar answer with negative meaning. So I already talked about that on a slide before. So really knowing these and really paying attention to these, I think is very, very important. So to prevent infection, it is recommended that hospitals use, well, how current is this? Which one would be
Infectants.
disinfectants? Can't buy them anymore in the store, but yes, this means not or none. So eliminating extremes. So when numerical options vary greatly, chances are that the best response is in the middle ranges. Again, I think you have to keep in mind this is not always true, right? It's really in those cases when you have no clue, right? And you might come across those. You're prepared, you studied, but then you have this one question where you're like, I have no idea. And one instance could be that you have like extremes. And I would recommend to eliminate the highest and the lowest option. So for example, the average number of volcanic eruptions recorded annually is and here you'll have to take a guess. You can tell me which ones you would choose from.
I would pick from the.
Yes.
I'd say 25.
25 is hold on, 25. Why 25?
Because it's the most extreme from the others.
Right, and you want to eliminate that. You want to eliminate 25, exactly, and the other most extreme one would be 2,500. Right, that's the most extreme. So you're left with C and D. So exactly, you want to eliminate B. I think we have one more. Columbus sailed through the Americas in what century?
The 15th.
Yes, exactly. And you could choose between B and C, but we all know that it's the 15th. Similar choice strategy. Let's have a look at that one. Certain questions have answers that are closely related or almost identical, except for one detail. This should be your clue to choose one of the two similar answers. The similar choices cannot both be correct, but either one of them may be the correct answer. Is that clear? Certain questions. So read that one again, just to make sure that that's clear. So basically there's just one little detail that's different. Let's look at, oh yeah, that one is funny. A good communication technique to use when confronting someone is an I message or an I message or a sharp remark or silence. Which one would you choose?
You would pick
I
from.
would choose A.
They're similar.
Which ones are similar?
The first two.
Yeah, exactly. And a good communication technique is the an I message, meaning the A, right? It would not be the I message. Exactly, but that's how you could eliminate choices. A chloroplast contains chlorine, calories, carbon, or chlorophyll.
Chlorophyll, because chloroplast and chlorophyll are similar.
Right, and also, I mean, A and D, chlorine and chlorophyll, and yeah, and you're right, chloroplast. That is also it's the key word in this question. Okay, opposite choice strategy. In some cases, the best choice is between two very different or opposite choices. Again, this is kind of like the opposite, but if you're aware of all these different possibilities, that might help. The meaning of cognizant is ignorant, aware, insensitive, remorseful. Which one is it? Any idea? What would be the two opposites here?
Aware and insensitive? No, aware and ignorant.
Yes, exactly, Karen. Yeah. Aware and ignorant. And cognizant means, of course, aware. But yeah, you would choose between A and B. Good. Right. And there's the umbrella option. When one option encompasses the other option or is more inclusive, choose it. There's a typo. Test anxiety can be reduced by practicing relaxation techniques, deep breathing, muscle relaxation techniques, visualization exercises. Which one would be the correct one? The most inclusive one?
Would it be A?
Yeah, exactly. Very good. Because deep breathing, muscle relaxation, visualization are all relaxation techniques. And you'll actually find quite a few multiple choice test questions that are like that. To assist a child in developing social skills, a teacher should talk to the child often, observe the child's social behavior, engage the child in a game, or provide a variety of social activities.
Observe the child's social behavior.
Observe the child's social behavior. For the umbrella option, I think I would choose a different one, I think.
Is it D?
I think I would choose D. Because I think that it kind of includes all of them. Is that if you observe a child's social behavior, that is kind of like part of engaging it in social activities, if that makes sense, I hope. And this one is one of my favorite ones. So I used to be a language teacher. I used to teach ESL. If you can't tell, well, you can probably tell that I have an accent, but I'm not from the States. I'm from Germany originally. And I used to teach English as a second language for a long time. And I would often have like grammar tests, and some of the answers just wouldn't make sense. So you can always eliminate that. So the basic purposes of an educational grant is you needed to supplement college costs, to help the financially needy student, to promote college success, achieving high grades. Which ones could you eliminate? That's not too tricky and not too easy, I think, even for native speakers. But there are two questions that grammatically make sense.
Can you eliminate C and D?
What did you say, Karen? Can you repeat?
Can you eliminate C and D?
C.
No, not a. No, I think one of those are. I'm sorry. I think one of those are the answer.
C or D. C is one. Could be an answer, and then somebody else had an idea.
I think you should eliminate A for sure because it doesn't make sense in the sentence.
Yep, exactly.
Is it either B or C?
It is either B or C, exactly. You need the two there. Basic purpose is to help financially or to promote college success. Great, good. This one's a little bit easier. In the Sahara, you would most likely see an addax, chipmunk, monkey, or leopard.
It would be A because it's the only grammatically correct one.
That's right. And I already talked about that before, so avoid absolutes. So always, never, every, all, none. Usually those are false. The dropout rate in high schools is on the rise because all students are unmotivated. Some students are disillusioned with school. Students never take high school seriously. Every high school student has emotional problems.
It's B because the rest all have absolutes in them.
Exactly. Choose true and false. A person experiencing anxiety always needs to take medication. Without the right intentions, the students will never succeed. Most people today have an opportunity to obtain a quality education. So the first one would be true or false?
False.
And the second?
False.
Yeah. And the last one?
True.
Yeah. Good. The exception or most different answer. Read the question carefully and pick the option that is different from or does not belong with the other options. Which of the following would be an example of cognition? Driving a car, swimming, hiking, or studying for an exam. So which one is the most different one?
Studying.
Yes, studying. Sure, cognition has something to do with thinking, of course, too. Yeah, but even without knowing anything about that, that could help. How many do we have left? Just a few. Oops. Longest answer strategy. Sometimes the correct response is longer than the others. So sometimes the chances are that this is correct. So we can kind of breeze through this a little bit here. The longest answer is obviously C, and in this case, it's correct. This one I think is one that is probably often the case. Keyword strategy. Choose a response that has the same or similar words in it as the question. The low-key system of memorization is generally more effective than repetition because A, it creates a location or loci in which to store information. B, it forces one to repeat information again and again. C, it makes information go directly into long-term memory. D, it is easier to use. Which one? Yeah.
A.
Exactly. It's because of the low key. Yeah. And there's another example, and I think I want to move to the next topic because I think it's really important. But are there any more questions about multiple choice tests? Are there maybe any questions about any other tests that we have not covered? I want to talk a little bit about test anxiety in those last 10 minutes, but is there maybe anything that you've experienced in some tests lately and you maybe need a little bit of advice or a tip? And maybe by the end, so we'll see if we have some more time left. But let's talk a little bit about test anxiety. And again, if I have it all on my study skills page on the resources. Oops, no, that's the wrong one. I have the same tips that I present in the PowerPoint I have there. So you can just, have that for your records. All right. And some of these things we already talked about, but especially when it comes to test anxiety, like going to class, taking notes, reviewing your notes, and for example, like working with your notes, creating flashcards, using your notes and your textbooks for PowerPoints, use Quizlet, all of these things. So if people have severe test anxiety, because all of these things are kind of self-explanatory, right? It's like, well, duh, all right, I have to prepare and have to work with my notes. But people who have test anxiety, even putting themselves in the situation of thinking about the test and studying for the test forces them to think about the test, prevents them from studying. And so finding ways to set yourself up with as much support as you can. Like, you guys are awesome. You guys are doing tutoring. So, but maybe finding study groups. All of these things will help. I'm a big fan of Quizlet, big fan of flashcards. Yeah, any of these will help. And for anybody, not just for someone with test anxiety, but for everybody, it's important to study often and not cram, and study over small periods of time. Again, 45, 50 minutes, and then take a break. Cramming doesn't do anything. It makes you just more anxious, because usually when you cram, you don't have enough time, and then you're like, oh God, I missed this, I missed that. And in the end, you might feel worse. I mean, it's better than not studying, I guess, for sure. But it's better to space it out. And I give a workshop in a couple of weeks that is about organizing. Like, it's called 14 Days to Exam Success, and that is mostly about how you manage your time and organize your time so you don't cram. I have some really useful tips. Quizzing yourself, so coming up with possible exam questions, using them to test yourself and or your study buddy. That's very important. Quizzing others. Relaxation techniques, so meditations, breathing techniques, all of these things are just beneficial to calm you down, to help you focus. One of the things that I want to share with you, and because I didn't put that on my on my PowerPoint, but I'll send this to you after I stop sharing. I'll send it in a chat function. Every day at noon, I offer something that I call a mindful moment. I'm a certified yoga instructor, and every day I lead like a 5 to 15 minute either meditation or a breathing technique, or like a little bit. Today we did a little bit of yoga. So Friday I read a story that kind of gives you, I don't know, just gives you an opportunity to just relax. So yeah, I've been doing this now for the 3rd week, and it's been really fun. So it'd be cool if you guys could join. The day of the exam, I have if you hear somebody walking in, I'll show you real quick. That's my dog. That's Joker Dog. So home office at its best. But yeah, wanted to show you where the noise comes from. Okay, day of the exam. One of the things that is simple, but is very logical. So if you drink a lot of coffee, especially if you cram the night before a test and you drink a lot of coffee, then that will mimic high anxiety. So your heart will beat faster, you might get a little bit sweaty. So, and if you already have anxiety and you put that on top of it, that won't help. So limiting it, you can have your coffee, but maybe just be a little bit more mindful of that. Getting in a happy mood, and like meditating and breathing and things like that, they already help. They put me in a happy mood. But your strategy can be completely different. They can be, writing about something that makes you feel good. They could be like before you maybe leave the house. Well, these days now you won't leave the house. Maybe before you take the online test, you listen to your favorite song, for example. Something that makes you feel good. When even writing down an affirmation of, I got this. I am prepared. Yes, I know my stuff. So this can really help to get you in a good mindset, and it's proven. So it's research has proven that it'll make a difference in test performance, you know, as opposed to like, oh my God, and I forgot this and I forgot that. Okay. During the test, monitoring your time for every test, you know, and especially you said that some of you take essay tests. I feel like in essay tests, at least for me, it's even harder to lose track of time. It's very important when you write an essay that you give yourself time to edit in the end. I think that's often lost. Yeah, you give yourself a little bit of time to brainstorm at the beginning. Don't start writing your introduction right away. Just brainstorm a little bit, write down a quick outline, and then start writing, and monitor your time and give yourself at least 5 minutes. At least, it depends on how much you wrote and how long your answers are, but at least 5 minutes to edit. Yeah, but for any test, monitoring your time is important. Yes, asking questions. We as teachers, we would hate for you to sit there and just panic if we could just answer a very easy question. Of course, we won't answer anything content related, but anything that'll help you to be successful on the test that we can't answer, we want to. At least I'm speaking for myself as a teacher. I'd hate for you to sit there and get anxious. Nobody's perfect, all right? So you studied well, right? Use all of these higher level thinking skills. You have flashcards, you have your study groups, all of these things, your virtual study buddies. Okay, and then you're in the exam and then you don't know your answer. And maybe even you have open book tests these days. That doesn't mean, you know, you still have to be prepared, because oftentimes there's still a time limit. So you can't think like, all right, I can look everything up. No, you still have to be prepared. But there still can be the answer where like, I have no idea. I really don't know. Well, mark it, come back to it if you have more time. And if you don't, guess for multiple choice, guess, unless you're being punished for a wrong answer. You have those, those are really mean, those multiple choice. I have had those in a psychology class in college. That was it. We all had bad grades. That was really mean because you were punished for a wrong answer. That's why you have to know your test before. But in the end, nobody's perfect, all right? Allow yourself that. You are human and not a knowledge machine. After the test, move on. Now that it's online, that makes it a little bit easier. Well, it maybe makes it easier. I feel like the worst after a test was talking with my classmates. I hated that. I usually just kind of, you know, took off and got a coffee or a muffin. I kind of treated myself, and that's what I think. Is that my next? Oh, no, I don't have that on here. But treating yourself is important too, right? You have this test and you studied. Get yourself a treat. Maybe bake some cookies. These days, that's a kind of a nice thing to do. But just moving on and not fretting about it. And a little bit of anxiety is good. It maximizes performance, right? It's just that actors, you know, have that stage fright, and that'll get the adrenaline going and actually will increase your performance a little bit. Is not just okay, but it's good. My resources here too, but do you have any questions at this point? And I could, what I will do, actually, I will stop the recording, and then I'll still hang out with you guys a little bit. So if you watched this online, thanks for watching, and hopefully see you to my next workshop.